there, folks, and welcome to the video. We are not streaming today, but we are doing a special, oops, we didn't stream earlier in the week because we were sick and people died and stuff. So that's good and bad and all that stuff. No, don't go back there, Luna. Even when we're not live, you find a way to be messy. So we are doing kind of like a special bonus video.
A secret video, if you will.
And that's important because today we will be talking about, during our Talking Tellest, the Secret Societies of Tellest. So we put together like an idea about like what we were going to talk about, and this will end up going out to our patrons within the next couple of days, and then about 14 weeks down the line, we'll plan to have this go out with our regularly scheduled stuff, because at that point we should be able to keep the timeline going. I might change that up and I might make this like 3 weeks from now. I have no idea quite yet. It's my decision to make, and I will make it.
And we are waiting with bated breath. That's all my breath. I can't breathe.
I'm wondering.
Okay, so then I'm going to talk because that's what I'm supposed to do as a co-host. You're supposed to fill space and riff.
Riff. Hey, look. Mouse pads are 15% off for a limited time.
Wow.
We don't have mouse pads anymore.
Temporarily, right?
Temporarily, yes. We are pivoting, which is what the video yesterday was all about.
How to pivot.
How to pivot. Anyway, so today's episode, again, about secret societies in Tellest. We figured we've already identified quite a few in the Tellest universe, and we'll talk about them a little bit more and kind of riff on,
what they're about, who's in it, and how
why they formed, how we can use them more going forward.
Right. And maybe brainstorm some additional secret societies and, where they might be in play.
Yep. We are going to try and keep it to a tight 30 today. So we'll see what we can pull off, but we got another 27 minutes or so. So, Rhianna, which secret society would you like to talk about first?
Well, the most common one that we talk about is probably the Calistrazi because of our super Calistrazi mystic Bixby Alidocious.
I didn't throw a picture of Bixby up there because, in theory, he's a Calistrazi, but he's not really one of the first men. So, he's not a real Calistrazi. I think he's kind of like a Calistrazi by way of who he's associated himself with, and because his power is just so cool. He can say I've been around for however long, right. He's not one of the year one people who came out from under the mountains or anything like that.
And who's gonna check? You gonna count the rings on him like a tree?
Right. And one of the things too is, even at this point in time, we don't really know how old Bixby is. We know that he showed up in the April's Fools, and that at that point he had died quite a lot of times. Every time he dies, he comes back at the same age, roughly. Right. So it's... Do
we not have an origin story for Bixby as far as when he was
pre-powered?
Right.
No. His very first story is when he first learns that he has the powers, which of course is the first time that he dies.
Okay.
And then dies again within the same story.
And again and again and again.
Well, it's just twice in that story. Once you realize that you can die and die and die, you make bad choices. You're like, well, I don't have to worry anymore. Ooh, that hurt just as much as the first time.
This outfit's dirty. Let's just die and get a new one.
We always talk about Bixby.
Yeah.
Because we love him.
Yeah, but the Calistrazi, so there's the crypt of the... I hate him. I hate that. Good job, artist, in making this creepy. Yeah. But the Calistrazi, like Michael said, are the first men, so they were one of the first societies. But what makes them secret?
Well, so the Calistrazi themselves, maybe not, but the crypt of the Calistrazi is the secret society, and their whole thing, as we learned in Heart of the Forest, was that they were bringing the corpses of the Calistrazi to the crypt so that their bodies could not be used for ill purposes. So we don't actually have any pictures of any of the people in the crypt of the Calistrazi. We talked last week or 2 weeks ago or whatever about how like the Crypt of the Callistrazi was our first attempt at kind of doing like Harry Potter-esque houses and stuff like that, because they did get like separated into warriors, mages, stuff like that, healers, kind of your D&D archetypes. But the real focus of anybody in that society, that secret little group, is that they're trying to protect the legacy of the Callistrazi, because the Callistrazi are dangerous. As you can see by Thune Soren here, who is basically our undead Mr. Fantastic. His whole shtick is that he can elongate, stretch, change the shape of, making him very deadly indeed. Fun fact, we can tie him into Bixby because one of the stories that we have planned for the future is a like buddy story with the two of them.
Ooh, but he's so
grotesque.
Ooh, yes. Well, that's why this is the real reason why it's a secret, because no one wants to. That's a face for radio.
Mm-hmm. But he's such a cool character because like you do have like your Hulks and stuff like that who are first seen as like the Mr. Hyde can't be, rehabilitated into society. And obviously when we first meet Thune Soren, like he is a Jason, Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger-esque. Yeah, like there's no redeeming qualities there. And it is a Halloween story where he's picking off people one by one. Like we did everything that we could to be mindful of the way that like a Halloween story or like a scary movie is supposed to run, with even like the final girl like finding a way to escape before he could get to her. And then basically like leaves him trapped in the cavern that he finds himself in. Thune Soren, again, has the abilities of someone like Mr. Fantastic, but he doesn't have the mental wherewithal when he first escapes his sarcophagus to know that he can keep doing it. So, like, he's at the... actually, we have...
Is he, like, in the rage monster phase and then has to kind of... learn his own humanity?
Yeah. I think basically it's like when you have someone like Bixby who can kind of be there to hold your hand through the monstrous phase, you can kind of train this creature to be like, all right, like I'm gonna make you a useful weapon instead of, and I don't know that they'd ever be like friends or anything like that, but like there's a sort of like creature comfort to this is the person who always shows up, even if I kill him 100 times, like maybe I won't kill you this next time because what's the point? You're gonna come back and annoy me again.
Like how you earn a bird's trust by letting it bite your finger.
Yes.
Because like parrots need to test the branch that it's going to land on, so that's a fun bird fact for you. It'll bite your finger to test whether or not your finger's going to drop them. It's a test of trust.
Rhianna's doing Charlie work. That's her bird law. The story that we wrote about Thune Soren, Don't Wake the Dead, actually inspired this map, because the whole shtick is that there's a sinkhole that's out in the woods that they found a temple church type thing in the sinkhole that was made for the Callistrazi. There's 3 Callistrazi heroes that are buried in this church. Let's take a look at the next map down because we have the temple in the sinkhole map. We'll just do the printful one, that's fine. So in this church, and I can go a step further. Oh my god. So our heroes in this story came down into the sinkhole, went inside here, looked for traps, moved this giant statue, and then were able to go into the catacombs under this place. Like everything was supposed to be hidden. And later on, we, through map making, discovered that there is a caretaker that lived at some point down here in the caverns, probably died at some point. But whatever magic took hold and made... basically a death knight out of Thune Soren, it didn't matter that the caretaker wasn't there. Like, Thune Soren was just trapped inside a sarcophagus until he wasn't.
So, with the Callistrazi, what is their, like, how do they identify other members of the Secret Society?
Well, again...
Or is it just, a little group?
The Callistrazi themselves are not part of the Secret Society.
Right.
The crypt of the Callistrazi, those people who live there... they are basically summoned there by the administrative people at the crypt.
Okay.
So in Heart of the Forest, Luther, who I think we have a picture of actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Talk amongst yourselves. I like how that was your attempt.
Well, it sounded like we were talking amongst ourselves.
So we actually meet Luther maybe like a third of the way through the book, and we learn that there is someone from the White Knights of Gardone who is summoned to the forest. He's summoned to Siphenadil, and Kelvin doesn't quite know why at first. And through their journey, they learn that Luther is going to be recruited into the Crypt of the Calistrazi. So the crypt is basically like hiring people from different parts of the world, and Gardone is close enough where that makes sense.
So it wouldn't necessarily be a thing where like you elect to join. It would be by invitation only.
Pretty much. Now, that's not to say that like someone who is like an administrative person on, the higher ups at the Crypt of the Calistrazi isn't traveling and finds someone who's like, oh, dip, like you're the one, like you are the chosen one. We're going to like do like tests and see like if it works for you to be here. Yeah.
Are you worthy?
Now, Heart of the Forest is like a 8-year-old book at this point, so if you're getting spoilers for me, it's your fault.
Go read it.
Earmuffs if you don't want to hear the spoilers. The Crypt of the Calistrazi is found. There's bad stuff that happens in that book, so the focal point that they were there for is kind of, it's gone screwy. So we talked about like what maybe you would do in the future of these secret societies, and at least in this case, the question is, was the damage done and do they have to worry anymore, or is it we need to figure out something do we need to relocate? Do we need to take all these corpses and move them into a new location?
Do we rebuild or do we regroup and do something else?
Right. And I mean, that's not to say that it has to be hard labor or anything like that. Like, portal magic does exist in the Tellest universe.
That's true.
There is a good chance that, based on the fact that Bixby's girl is emblazoned in a statue at the bottom of the Crypt of the Calistrazi. I think Odessa is her name.
That sounds familiar.
Animus's daughter, or alleged daughter. There's probably a connection to the Nexus there too.
As a different type of secret.
So there's probably ways to like incorporate Wispus's travel band, not unlike the American travel bands.
No, we don't talk about
we don't do that.
We don't talk about such things in a fantasy world.
Do you...
We want dragons and burning at the pyre, not American politics. It's better than what we're dealing with now.
Escape! Do you have anything else that you want to talk about regarding the Calistrazi or the Crypt before we move on to our next syndicate?
Let us move on.
So we talked about Heart of the Forest, and we can link that into the Silver Serpent Chronicles.
Yep.
So the Silver Serpent and his little group, in the beginning, we only had 2 people. We had the Silver Serpent, who is here not wearing silver, and her little sidekick, who desperately wants to be called the Emerald Adder, much to everybody's chagrin.
Yep.
And the whole thing is, like, it's a secret society of, like, 1.5 people, basically. Right. Like, she's inviting him into it because he's able to discern that something weird is going on.
So these guys are basically, like, supernatural vigilantes, I guess?
Yeah, 100%. There's enough of a, like, connective tissue with, like, the Flash and Green Arrow and stuff with this series. It's just, like, a medieval version of it. Like, there's an event that's not unlike what you saw in Flash, where, like, the reactor explodes and people get powers and stuff like that. The first book was basically establishing Kelvin Dracos as a worthy successor to the Silver Serpent. She's not the first. She's kind of like the Dread Pirate Roberts. She is not
like
the
a
first.
Zorro.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know. Was Zorro the only Zorro?
No, Zorro. Well, the whole point of the Mask of Zorro was Anthony Hopkins training.
Oh, that's right.
The other
that's
guy.
right. I've never actually seen Zorro.
What?
Any of the Zorro properties.
With Catherine Zeta-Jones?
Yes.
You haven't seen that?
I haven't.
Oh, we got our movie for next weekend.
Oh, there we go.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
So yes, she is not the first. We do know that she's got a husband who is no longer in the picture last show, who he may not have even been the first one. And at one point we know that Kelvin's mother was involved in the secret of the Silver Serpent. What we do end up having is in the second book, which I was writing and then I stopped writing because I was enjoying playing Spider-Man too much. We know that Kelvin ends up basically creating a small team. Spider-Man very much has his rogue gallery, and Kelvin very much has his. But his rogue gallery was getting too big, and we needed sidekicks and stuff like that. So he's got a couple of people, some who are magically powered, some who aren't, and
silly doggy.
And we have to see if they can keep up the secret.
Well, the dogs can't.
The dogs can't.
That's for sure. So I guess like the Silver Serpent is not only a mantle, but also like a
group, essentially.
A secret, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, because you wouldn't want someone, if you're a vigilante, like the whole shtick is keep your identity hidden.
Yeah. Now, that's not to say that people don't know that the Silver Serpent exists. You know, it's just like a Spider-Man, like, they're your friendly neighborhood Silver Serpent.
Right. And we had talked a little bit about, like, you know, I don't know if it exists already in the books, but going forward, I think it should exist, like, sort of a secret, either emblem, a tattoo, you know, something to indicate, like, oh, we know the identity, or we keep the secrets of the Silver Serpent.
Yep.
Maybe it's a necklace of silver. Something.
Could be. I know that the sword that you can see Marin wielding there is kind of important. So it's kind of like antithetical to what like Kelvin's power is, because he's
a range, not a
right, and he benefits from like a bow and an arrow versus what a sword would do.
Right.
But it's a symbol of who the main Silver Serpent is.
For those who don't know, Kelvin's power is like
telescopic vision.
Yeah, he can like zoom in. He can see far away.
Yeah. Originally in the second timeline, because there is the timeline, the Voldemort timeline. The second timeline, he had that power through one of his artifacts, and I decided to just make it his main power in the third timeline that we're exploring.
Yeah, so. You don't want everyone OP.
Right. And we end up, well, that's future stuff. That's an actual spoiler. So
no spoilers.
Hi, Poochie dog.
Hi, doggy.
Are you okay?
Our little Luna would like her own secret society.
Give me a podcast. I will be secret about it.
She's so cute.
I will record the podcast, but I will never publish the podcast. Anything else that you want to talk about with the Silver Serpent?
Yeah.
All right. We have two other stuffs to talk about. We have this lady and her secret society, and this lady... Oh, wait, we have three. We have three secret societies, and we only have 10 minutes to talk about them.
Well, let's get through them.
Well, who do you want to talk about?
The Crimson Veil.
Okay, so we'll talk about the Crimson Veil. So this is a silly one because we've had this one like on the docket forever, but never actually wrote any stories about it. This is like, we have 3 or 4 stories that we have art for. We talk about them all the time, and they just don't exist in any form, except for art.
They exist in our mind, like in the canon of Tellest. Like they're part of it. They just haven't been written into it yet.
Right.
But the Crimson Veil are
vampires. Nyar.
So
that's how we say vampires.
So the whole shtick with them is you don't know that they're vampires. That's their secret.
Right. The whole thing about the Crimson Veil is that they're kind of like an opportunity for women to have great vengeance against their enemies. The character that we have on the screen right now is someone who was attacked and left for dead, and was basically rescued by the other vampires of the society, and it's kind of her job. You know what? The best way to put it is, have you ever seen Sucker Punch?
Yeah.
It's Vampire Sucker Punch.
I love it.
We have a picture here of, it's their album art. This is the Crimson Veil as the Secret Society exists in whatever book or comic or whatever that we would envision them as. We've got Queen Bee there at the top, and then Isabella at the bottom. I can't for the life of me remember most of the other names off the top of my head.
But they exist.
They do.
So what I imagine them doing, we have that one song that we always listen to that's kind of like...
Byzandria on their album Salome. It is Sisters of the Night, or Sisters of the Light.
So that song is so sort of belly dancey. I imagine in my head that the Crimson Veil are like, you know, oh, we're beautiful women that'll rent ourselves out for a, like, you know, a night of entertainment, like dancing and stuff for you and your classy male friends or whatever. Mm-hmm. You know, like all upstanding kind of things, and then they
keep their eye open for impropriety.
Impropriety, and as soon as they see any impropriety or anyone, you know, treating other women like dirt, they not only can recruit for themselves and give the lady a place to stay, but they also get their vengeance.
Right. And I would say that the way that we conceptualize these vampires is that they're not necessarily like violent to everyone for the sake of violence. Like, it is a very like...
Which is against the patriarchy, is what they are, basically.
Right.
And vampires against the patriarchy.
And it's wholesome. And I mean, like, we had originally, like, I think when we were conceptualizing it, like, it is a guy who's telling the story, basically saying that, like, he's one of their familiars. Mm-hmm. And, like, explaining to a guy who's looking to cause trouble, like, you just walked into something you're not going to walk away from.
Right. And I think that's a really fun sort of villain story to... Well, not villain story. It's a story where...
They're anti-heroes.
They're anti-heroes because all you have to do is be a decent damn human being and not mistreat people who are weaker than you. And also, I would say that, like, predominantly it's going to be women because of, like, society and just the way that, like, things are, but it doesn't necessarily have to be limited to that. Like, it could be a woman mistreating her daughter. It could be like a dude mistreating like a weaker, a non-muscular dude, like whatever the situation may be.
Just any kind of imbalance.
Whoever preys on the weak becomes the prey. So yeah.
You had mentioned that, like, in a situation where someone is hurt or something like that, like, they give them a place to stay. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the secret society aspect of it. Like, yes, they could do that, but they could keep their identities relatively secret.
Right.
The vampire ness of it all. Because in the case of Isabella, like, if she wasn't turned, she would have died. So that was kind of like the big shtick for her. Right. Whereas other people...
Yeah, and it's really kind of noble in that respect. Like, we're going to save your life, and in return, you're going to save the lives of others.
Right.
And also take the lives of others. Right. It's pending.
So let's talk about other vampire stories for a second. We have Hoagland here, who his main story was in As Darkness Falls. And in that story, he fought against vampires like crazy. He was connected by way of Adelia Cregan to Luca Cregan. Luca was in a secret society in Foster Villa where Hoagland basically was living. And that secret society was called the Syndicate. For the most part, they were kind of like your noble thieves. You know, it was, let's make sure that people are, being treated properly, that, you're Robin Hooding the situation. Not necessarily against, like, the Sultan, because the Sultan was kind of on good terms with Luca. Luca knew Ileana? No, not Ileana. I can't remember the daughter's name. There's too many characters in the Tellest universe.
But is it the Syndicate is not necessarily just like robbing money? It's like making sure that magical artifacts aren't in the wrong hands as well, right?
Well, no. That is not their purpose.
Yeah.
So the Syndicate was pretty much just kind of like a noble thieving guild, and it was run by a guy named Trentus who was assassinated during Luca's tenure there. Luca was almost being groomed to be, well, actually, it wasn't Luca. It was Chaos in the other timeline. Was almost being groomed to be like in the administrative like top brass of that stuff, and he followed Trentus. He really liked Trentus, and during the usurpment of Trentus, Chaos was put in harm's way as well. That was the second time his house burned down. And he was betrayed by like one of his first lady friends. And subsequent to that was when he ended up getting like a lot of his treasures, because he ended up getting like called to a mysterious fortress in the south.
I see.
Which we now know as the Forgotten Keep.
Ah! Ooh, magical.
Very much a secret society, because you forget about it every time you go in. Let me you riff for me, and I'm going to find.
So I guess I was assuming that the Thieves Guild was doing the magical artifacts because of what I know of Luca, whose whole power is,
Magic find.
Yeah, he senses magic, kind of like Cerebro, and Charles Xavier.
Iris. Iris was the Sultan's daughter.
Showed a picture.
It's a pretty picture.
It is very pretty. I like the background, kind of anime-esque.
Yeah, I mean, any of the art that we got from Red Pear had that kind of aesthetic.
Mm-hmm. And I do think we've talked about this before. We can have a whole episode on it, but like Tellest would very much benefit from like an anime mechanism for entertainment. I don't know what you would say. Like
medium.
Yes, there you go.
The anime
Good
medium.
Job.
Pet the butt.
Pet the butt.
Pet the butt.
Pet the butt with the doggy.
Yeah, our original anime-esque artist quit art to be a lawyer. So I have not talked to her for a very long time, but I hope she's doing well. But yes,
courtroom sketches.
Yes, very true. So we can actually use the connection to the Syndicate, rewind that back, to go to the Thieves Guild, which Hookland was also part of. And I can't remember when we originally saw it. We saw him in the original
story,
Bindings of Fate, right? They're basically like in the town of Westwick, which that's one of my next maps that I'm going to be working on, is the tavern in Westwick that Prodigy like blows up the floor and like goes into. That'll be fun. But there was a Thieves Guild in Westwick. They fought their way in to meet with a thief who they could use to do their tracking, and that was when we met Hookland, who his power is interesting in that he has vision theft. Basically, he hijacks people's vision and can check out what they're doing.
So not just people.
Not just people. He can warg, and I think my description of warging beat Game of Thrones to the punch.
It predated Game of Thrones for sure, because I remember as we were watching it and you saw like the warging for the first time and the eyes went white, you were like, they stole that from me.
Right, and obviously the book existed prior to that, but I don't think that their eyes whited out in the book.
Right, I think they did that stylistically in the show.
And historically that's happened to me a few times, because we also talked about the weird connection between, I mean, obviously I am not the first person to do a character who speaks so loud that they can burst people's eardrums, but it is really weird that my character Anson has that power, and then Marvel needed someone to play Black Bolt, and they got Anson Mount to play him. Very strange indeed.
It is weird, for sure.
But so Hookland is not the only thief from the guild who we've seen before. We also have J.D. Rivers, who is a pretty popular thief in the guild. The interesting part about the Thieves Guild is that it's not necessarily the Thieves Guild. It's like a collection, spider's web of Thieves Guild across the world.
So is it more so like you would call it a guild in the same sense as like we're going to help you become a better thief for your own end, not that you're going to help us with like one big...
I think it would probably be a little bit of both, right? It's, hey, like, we're going to elevate your level of renown, infamy,
Okay.
but you need to get us XYZ thing. So if anything else, that's the stuff that you were talking about. Give me all your treasures.
Got it.
In JD's stories, for instance, that Aaron Canton has written for us, she is basically given these, like, your mission, if you choose to accept it, we need you to do X, Y, and Z. So you're going to go and you're going to infiltrate, this person's tent, pull the missive that he has so that we can see why the Gnolls are all of a sudden showing up in Adelatha for Tower Sphere. Stuff of that nature.
Very cool.
So. Now,
do the thieves, the thieves of the Thieves Guild have any way to identify each other, or...
So my thought process is, there is, if you familiarize yourself with the rogue characters in D&D, there's something that they can do to communicate with each other, like through like hand signals. It's serving can't. Thieves can't. I don't know if that's the pronunciation. But yeah, so my guess would be that there's a subtlety to the way that they introduce themselves so that someone can say, oh, okay, that they just did the hand gesture, that person's of the Thieves Guild.
Got it.
And someone who's not in the Thieves Guild wouldn't know what that meant. So,
got it.
You wouldn't necessarily be like, here's a coin. It would be, all right, they did that.
Right.
They flashed the shocker. That's how I know.
No! Totes and approves. Some sort of phrase even could be a...
I know it.
What is
I will provide it.
What is it?
First you get the banana.
No.
Saving that for TikTok?
Yes.
Any other stuff that you would like to mention for the Thieves Guild?
I think it would be interesting to utilize the Thieves Guild or any of the societies going forward in stories in like a way that's captivating to the audience, where like we don't realize a character is a part of a certain society or that they have a separate agenda from everyone else.
A way to like reveal it like 2/3 through the story or something like that.
Like some sort of thing, like especially with like, J.D. Rivers and like somebody who was a little bit less, like they're inconspicuous, you know what I mean? Like you wouldn't anticipate it.
I feel like
at all.
Like it's like taking Master Pycelle and not doing the reveal of his stuff like the chapter after you met him, right? Like it was revealed way too early in that. Like you find out in book 6,
right? And
you go back and see all the things that
all
were like,
clues.
How did he manage to get from here to here?
Right.
Like, oh,
I see.
Mm-hmm.
The Thieves Guild in particular, I think would be interesting. Like if somebody was, helping the heroes on their quest to do something, but meanwhile they're like basically trap them somewhere. So long, suckers, and like walk out with like a massive treasure. Just some situation like that. I would love to see.
Yeah, I think it's an opportunity for us to see something like that where you're completely catching someone off guard. And we've talked about this before. Like the Tellest universe is so big that like we can introduce these characters and completely like sideline the other ones and have them have no idea that this was about to happen. And in addition to that, I think that we kind of use it as a vehicle in the books that it has been used in, instead of using it as like an evolving force, right? Like if we are going to do the I keep calling it the rewrite. It's not really a rewrite. It's its own entity, and we're going to be exploring new stories in it. But like in the new timeline,
the conglomeration of all of the short stories and
I think it would be interesting to see one of these syndicates, one of these shadow societies have a part to play throughout a long portion of it, even if you don't know that it's happening at first.
Right. This is also making me think these aren't necessarily secret societies, but there are two sort of not secrets, but like things that I sort of contributed to Tellest or helped contribute that I think might fall under that category one day. The Cirque de Malorum.
Yeah, that's true.
Even though it itself is not a secret, sort of like by nature of it being a pop-up location and...
Well, and certainly the stuff that's happening behind the
and the
scenes.
stuff that happens behind the scenes, I think that's a little...
We've written 2 stories with Cirque de Malorum characters in it. And in both cases, we saw that there's darkness behind the tent.
Right.
And in your character's situation in our D&D campaign, we know as well that there's some darkness there as well.
Right.
And our D&D campaign takes place like 100 years in the future of the current Tellest timeline. So the Cirque de Malorum has been around for a while, continues to be around for a while. There's some other stuff there as well.
There's some underbelly stuff that I think would be fun to explore.
Right.
And then also the book that I'm working on, Whispers of the Weirdwood, the whole thing is that the forest itself where the dryads live is inherently a secret. Like, it's I don't know how to put it. Kind of like the Lost Woods in a sense. Like, the whole idea is sorry, our doggy is making a little blanket nest and it's adorable. The whole idea is that, like,
Secret Society?
Yeah, you can walk by that forest and not realize that you walked by it. Like, it's got magic of its own, and if you go into it, it's at your own peril. So the people who walk in and out are a very exclusive group, and who would know the means of, not even the means of locating it, but the means of being invited into it. So the Weird Society of Weirdos.
And you're like the president.
I'm the president of the Weirdos.
Oh, you know what? We had this one picture of JD up, but we didn't throw the other one up, and that's rude.
Dandelions, fluff.
Oh, dandelion fluff. Anything else that you would like to contribute, or should we wrap things up for today, this bonus episode?
Wrap it up.
Wrap it up, baby.
Wrap up your bonus.
Oh, no. All right, so we're going to go to the show closing page. So, folks, on the screen right now, you should see all the places that you can find Tellest out there on the internet. Tellest.com is a great first place to start because it will usually show you to our other projects. We have a couple of map websites that you can go to. Patreon.com/Tellest is the best way to start because we have all of our maps on there for the low price of as low as like $2 per month per map. You get high res and low res. Is it $2? I think it might be $5. I apologize. $5 per month gets you the high-res gridded and gridless versions. $10 a month gets you the variants and the point of interest documents.
And there's hundreds at this point.
Hundreds. Yeah, I think at this point I actually have 180 maps.
Yeah.
And we're getting more all the time because we have partnered up with a lot of great and talented people who want to continue working with us because we're fun to work with. And we're fair to work with, and we've got cool stuff on the horizon, and our world is fun to play in.
And we're nice.
It's true.
Mostly.
Mostly. We have tellest.etsy.com on here right now. I'm hoping that by the time this goes public, our issues will be resolved. The physical versions of our maps do not currently exist anymore because our partner does not have them available to us. There's been all kinds of problems in, whatever it takes to get those, whether it's people afraid of the tariffs, people, dealing with huge holidays overseas, the logistics of moving things across the world these days, all that stuff. I hope it gets resolved because I'm a really big fan of the maps that we make. They're a very good quality. Now, we are pivoting to something different, which by the time this comes out, we should be able to show off. But show me off. But in the meantime, just give us a little bit of time and we'll get that straightened out.
But we have the wands up there, and we're going to have more wands
That's
up there
true.
on the Etsy.
And other stuff, too, because you're doing the needle felts.
Other stuff.
Like book buddies.
The book buddies.
Which you'll also be able to find on at Weird Witch Wands. But let me backtrack for a second. If you want to get our digital maps on an a la carte basis, you can get them at battlemapfantasy.com. Again, we have like 200 items up there, so definitely give that a look as well. The TikTok channels, as we said, at Weird Witch Wands is where you can find all of Rhianna's stuff, and at Tales of Tellest is where you can find her, who just whined,
That's Luna.
and our burrowy dog, and then our barky dog downstairs. There's 2 other sites that you should check out. YouTube.com/@WorldOfTellest, which is the only place that you're seeing this. If you're listening to this, we put all of our stuff on YouTube eventually, especially because I think Twitch only lets you keep it up for like a month. But twitch.tv/thattellest guy is typically the only place that you can catch us live. We are recording this on Sunday night, and tomorrow we will be back with another Talking Tellest. We'll probably be talking taverns. So
Tavern Tales.
Mm-hmm. I don't know when this will actually come out on YouTube for patrons or otherwise, but
it'll be in the future.
But that's gonna wrap us up for tonight. We went a little over what I thought we were going to.
That's okay. I like talking to you.
Ew.
I know. Gross. Yuck.
But until next time, we'll miss you.